It's really a pleasure to be here with you as you begin your journey toward becoming a legal professional. And I know some family and friends are here, and that's wonderful because law school is a big undertaking, and it's so important for family, friends, your supporters to also know what your journey is going to be about. So I've been at Southwestern for almost 25 years. And during that time, Southwestern Law Day is one of my favorite events. And the reason for that is it's a full day of energy, of curiosity and connection. And for the applicants, we really do encourage you. There are questions going through your mind, ask them. You are here to make connections. So definitely absorb everything that we're sharing, but also make connections, reach out to each other, reach out to us. It's an incredible community, and we want to really encourage you to start making those connections from today on. And events like this really help you get a feel for the law school that's going to be your home, your academic professional home for the next 2, 3, or 4 years. And we hope that you'll learn what a warm, vibrant community Southwestern is. And at the heart of it is our fabulous student body. You'll meet some of them along with some of our alums throughout today's program and throughout the day. And with respect to our faculty, I'm assuming you have some familiarity, you've looked at our website. We have an incredibly accomplished and distinguished faculty. What really impresses me when I joined Southwestern a couple of decades ago and throughout the years is their accomplishments, their distinctions are in part given the work that they do as national experts, as scholars, but really at the heart of it is the care, the dedication that they have to the students' learning. And the students' learning and success, your success is literally Southwestern's success. And that's been the case since the school started in 1911, so for almost 115 years. There's also the school's commitment to innovations. And so you'll hear about various ways that Southwestern continues to innovate to meet students' needs. And one of those examples, the prominent example, is our multiple JD paths. Whether you're interested in a residential program, an online program, full-time or part-time or accelerated, our Scale Accelerated program that was first in the country, started in 1975, and it's the longest running one. There's also our 7 concentrations, which allow you to tailor your studies to serve your professional goals. So examples are our civil litigation advocacy program, entertainment and media law, technology and entrepreneurship. You'll hear about those. And we also have lots of opportunities for students to pursue their own professional goals outside of those concentrations. Popular ones are family law, immigration, business, criminal justice. And to get you there, of course, there's the in-class curriculum, but we really do also emphasize experiential learning. So lots of opportunities for externship placements, working in the real world of law practice, but as part of your law school education, clinics, honors advocacy programs, our public service program. And all of these is how Southwestern students gain the real world experience to step confidently into practice. So by the end of today's program, I hope you have a good understanding of the Southwestern education and opportunities, but really most importantly, that you get a feel for the school. What is it like to be a member of the Southwestern community as a student and then continue your professional career as an alum, as a member of the bar who comes back and continues to be involved with the school. We are going to start with our first segment of the program, which is to provide you an overview of the JD pathways. And this will show you that no matter what your needs or circumstances are, your dedication, your ambition to become a legal professional will find an opportunity here at Southwestern through one of these programs. So for this segment, we have PowerPoint slides, and I want to invite my colleagues, Vice Dean Natalie Rodriguez and Associate Dean Christina Knowlton, to join me, and we'll start with the JD pathways. I'm going to start us off, and then we'll hear from Vice Dean Rodriguez and then from Associate Dean Christina Knowlton. So this is a short overview. There's a lot to talk about, and we can spend a lot more time talking about our JD pathways and everything that comes with it. But we're doing a quick overview, and then we hope to leave a bit of time for a few questions that you might have. And then we will be around. And so if you want to find us, ask questions, or email us after today, we'd be happy to answer your questions. Before we start with the actual JD pathways, we wanted to give you kind of a visual of what I was referring to in terms of the Southwestern community. So on October 24th, pretty recently, we had our homecoming event, like homecoming extravaganza. This is an event that we don't have the final count for, but we're estimating about 2,000 students and their families, alumni and their families, faculty, staff were on campus for an event that started around 4:30 in the afternoon and went late into the night. And it just gives you a visual of the warmth, the care, the fun that's part of a Southwestern legal education. And I'm framing it as part of your legal education because it really, truly is. The connections that I was mentioning before, that's part of your legal education. To be ready to enter the profession, it's a pretty huge responsibility. And to meet that responsibility, the preparation extends beyond the classroom, extends beyond learning about criminal law, learning about civil procedure. It's developing a professional identity. It's developing a sense of belonging in a legal community. And this is how it happens through your daily work in the law school, but also through events like this. So super fun event, and hopefully you're going to be part of the guests who are here with us on October 23, 2026 for our next homecoming. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about our residential full-time program, residential part-time program. Our other residential program is SCALE, our 2-year accelerated JD program, and Dean Knowlton will be talking about that in a few minutes. With respect to the full-time residential program, so students have a set curriculum in the first year, in the fall semester, and in the spring semester for a total of 31 units. Same thing for part-time students. It's for a total of 19 units. And what these charts show is just to give you a visual. In the first year, students received the foundations of the legal areas, subject matters, and a big focus is on providing academic success support to you, as well as a big foundation in legal analysis, writing, and skills, which are core to your success in law school and also entering practice, regardless of what area of law you're interested in. And then starting in the second year, actually starting in the summer after your first year, there are opportunities for a lot of different types of electives, externships, and all of this information is part of the orientation, part of the academic counseling that you get, including helping you kind of determine, am I interested in a concentration? What elective should I be pursuing? And then there's also, of course, the bar readiness curriculum. That's part of your curriculum, both as part of your full-time, if you're a full-time student or if you're a part-time student. The other thing that we really emphasize, which I mentioned a bit ago, is preparation for practice. So Southwestern, we're very happy to share that along with other distinctions. You'll see here Best School for Practical Training through Pre-Law magazine. And it really is the case that Southwestern students, including their first summer, when they are working for a law firm, when they're serving as an extern with a judicial chambers, what we hear over and over is that they are practice ready. They have the interest, they have the commitment, they have the courage. Because it takes a lot of courage to step from the classroom as a first-year student into the real world of practice and actually be able to engage with the demands of the real world. And so that preparation is delivered through our externship program, which is one of the largest in the country. Same concept as internships. It's for school credit, where through a structured program, students work with law firms, with government offices, with judicial chambers, with in-house legal departments, anywhere that an attorney could work, and they gain experience. Another way to gain that practical experience is through our clinics. In the law school world, when law schools run basically law firms, they're called clinics. And so we have 9 of those in different areas: entertainment law, children's rights, several immigration-focused ones, and others. We have an extensive public service program, which is available to first-year students. And these are limited hour commitments, limited projects, but we want you to put yourself out there starting in your first year and gaining that practical experience. And through these and other projects that we have, Southwestern students engage in extensive hours of pro bono work that, as you can see here, totaled $2.2 million in monetary value in 2024. Before I pass it on to Vice Dean Rodriguez to tell you about the online program, I also wanted to share a quick overview of the various support systems and programs that we have to support students starting from your matriculation all the way to graduation. So academic success and mentorship, super, super important. Law school is a rigorous undertaking, and it has to be, right? But we want to make sure that you are feeling supported, and there are different sources of support available to help you succeed. So for example, for all incoming students, we have upper division peer mentors. For all incoming students, we have upper division dean scholars who provide academic mentorship and support. In terms of community and leadership, we have dozens of student organizations where you'll find a home in terms of your area of interest in, let's say, music law, or it might be an ethnic student organization that you want to join that's open to everyone. And there's that opportunity for connecting with a lot of different students. There are also opportunities that are class-wide in terms of acclimating into the legal profession through the important concepts of professionalism and civility. We all read a book and then engage in book conversations and attend different events. We also really focus on student well-being and the essential resources to support that in terms of partnering with a third-party provider for mental health support that's available to students 24/7. We do extensive community programming, again, to support mental health. We have a food pantry, a professional clothes closet, and lots of other programs and resources. And then finally, to just wrap this portion up, there is a lot of support and resources for career access and networking. So on an annual basis, we do about 400 different panels, symposia, forums to educate our students about different career paths and help you make connections with alums and others so that you can start thinking about, I thought I was interested in employment law. Let me kind of find out. Let me talk to a few people who practice in that area. And so a lot of support in terms of the students' well-being, as well as supporting students to get out, make connections, and add to the learning in the classroom so that by the time you're graduating in 2, 3, or 4 years, you're well on your way to entering the profession with a lot of confidence.
Okay. So I'm Vice Dean Natalie Rodriguez, and as Dean Garakanian mentioned, one of the Vice Deans, I am the Vice Dean that oversees our online JD program, so that's why I'm focusing on that program before you all today. Before I get started with my presentation, when I'm meeting with groups, prospective students, what I'd like to emphasize more than anything is that I think the most relevant credential I have, and what I would maybe focus on a little bit when you're hearing from me, is I'm a Southwestern alum. I went to Southwestern. I never left Southwestern after graduating. I was fortunate enough to be offered a position on the faculty, and I've never left. And I say that passionately because my experience going through Southwestern as a student was the best experience I could have ever asked for. I was a second career student, so I had a career before I went to Southwestern. I went to law school when I was older. I already had a family, 2 small children. So I was really looking for a school that could support me and my outside of law school responsibilities. And at Southwestern, I found that supportive community. At the time, we didn't have an online JD program. Had we had an online JD program, that's likely what I would have selected. I did the 3-year traditional residential program. Since transitioning to faculty, that same experience of a supportive community has remained the same. And so when we say that that is something that's important to us, I saw it as a student, and I see it in my colleagues now in the faculty and the staff. So Dean Garakanian gave you a great overview, and as she mentioned, this really is meant to be an overview. So if you have any questions in particular about the online JD program, if you don't get a touch base with me today in person, please email onlinejD@swlaw.edu, and one of us will get back to you and answer your questions. So again, that's specific to the online program, onlinejD@swlaw.edu. So Dean Garakanian started with giving you this overview of the curriculum. What I will emphasize is if you were to take a really close look, it's the same for our online program. It mirrors the residential program. There's 1 or 2 courses that we swap out, but that's about it. For example, in the residential program, students take civil procedure their first year, con law their second year. We swap those 2 courses in the online program. Not a big difference when it comes to curriculum. We're committed to the same principles that Dean Garakanian emphasized. We want to make sure you're ready academically from the start. So the same programs that are accessible to the residential students pre-starting law school are available to online students. That foundation in the law, foundations, laws, the subjects you're taking in that first year, that's part of the online curriculum. At the tail end, when you're getting ready to graduate and take the bar exam, we're also providing bar curriculum courses in the online program. So essentially, it really is the same. It's the delivery that's different, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a minute. Another thing I would emphasize is that the same extraordinary faculty that Dean Garakanian mentioned that are part of our residential program teach in the online program. So we don't have a separate online JD faculty. They teach online, they teach in person, same exceptional faculty. And so to give you an idea of what a online course is like at Southwestern, I have a short video, and I hope that you will agree with me that our online program is not Zoom U. Yep, there's audio.
The homepage is designed to be your launching pad for the course. The navigation bar is consistent across all courses and is an easy way for you to access resources. From here, you can email your professor, get technical support, access the SW Law Student Portal, and more, all from the home page of each course. Your professor will introduce themselves here. The module list on the left side of the home page will list all the modules within the course. The active current module is highlighted in yellow. Click on the module to be taken to the overview page for that module. The overview page gives you all the information you need for the week. The left side presents you with an introduction, objectives for the week, reading assignments, and anything else you'll need to be successful. The right side of the overview page is a list of all lectures, assignments, and activities for that week. Additional information is also available here, such as due dates and point values. Let's see an example of a lecture.
The old common law approach to mens rea was to look at whether the individual who committed a crime acted with a guilty mind. It was a more simplistic kind of analysis that really boiled down to, were they acting bad? The Regina v. Cunningham case gives you a sense of this kind of analysis. That's the case where the defendant pulled the gas meter off the pipes in his cellar, which was attached to his in-laws' house. Now, at the time, people deposited coins.
Each week includes practice with exercises like flip cards, discussions, interactive activities, and more. Thanks for watching.
So that just gives you a small taste of what one of our primarily asynchronous courses is like. You can see that there's a lot of engagement. The law school is known for the Socratic method. We've been able to deliver a Socratic experience online. Our students say that that's one of their favorite experiences about the program. The third point I want to leave you with is that same sense of community that we pride ourselves at Southwestern, we've been able to do that for online students. If you speak to a current online student, they'll tell you that they were pleasantly surprised at just how connected they feel with each other and with the law school, both virtually and for those that are able to make it on campus. So we have a mix of online students that are spread across the United States. We actually have also somebody currently in Canada and in Australia, and we've had someone in Greece. So United States, outside of the United States, but we also have a big population of students that are in California and that for other reasons can't participate in our in-person residential programs. Some of them live close enough where it's easy for them to get to campus and they participate on campus more than other online students. Regardless of the situation, building community is important for us, and we've been able to do that through a variety of ways. This just gives you a taste of some of those. Dean Garakanian started with homecoming. And so what we did for our online students, some of them, about 4 of them, actually flew in from out of state to participate in a prelude homecoming event just for the online students, where we gave them programming that was relevant. We did a program on how to network that was put on by our alumni, and they were then able to take those skills that they just learned right before homecoming and put them into practice as they were mingling with Southwestern alum and beginning to create that network for themselves. So we're always thinking of ways to both bring community on campus and virtually. And I should have started with welcoming. I saw that we have a number of online participants. I hope some of you might be considering the online JD program. And I will be around for a little bit to take questions, but I'm always available via online as well, or via email. Thank you. Dean Knowlton.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Y'all doing okay? Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. How many people, just to give me an idea, before today, before Dean Garacanian talked about it, had ever heard of the SCALE program or knew we had a 2-year program at Southwestern? Oh, awesome. How many of you are actually somewhat interested in the 2-year program? Wonderful. So I'm so happy that you are here. So same idea with the online program in the sense of by the time you graduate in 2 years, you're going to take all the same classes that you would if you were a traditional student or an online student. It's not necessarily a different curriculum in terms of the classes you take or the number of classes. To be a 2-year, the SCALE program historically was 2 years instead of 3. And to graduate in 2 years, you still take 87 units. You still have all the same requirements, whether you are in the traditional 3-year program, whether you are in the online program, same graduation requirements. It's the same thing. I just have a few more. In SCALE, you have to do an externship. Most of our students do an externship anyway. I like to say it's a guaranteed externship because every single person who graduates who's in SCALE will have done a full-time externship, which is really exciting and it's guaranteed. So, but that is very typical of a Southwestern student. As Dean Garacanian mentioned, we have 400 externships a year, very common to do an externship, very common to do 2 in SCALE, actually. A lot of our students do 1 after the first summer, and then also do the full-time externship, which is in quarter 8. Okay, so, and hi, everybody on Zoom. How are you guys doing? I didn't see your hands. Did you guys know about the SCALE program? I'm not going to assume you're just online. I'm going to assume some of you might also be interested in SCALE. So, okay. Oh, there's a lot of people too. Okay, so let me, how do I put them?
Put the mouse on the left monitor.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so this is just a picture of what it looks like. In SCALE, the difference is the way we're able to do this in 2 years and still get you to do everything you would do if you were a traditional 3-year student, excuse me, is we use the quarter system. How many people went to a UC or currently go to a UC? Not that, okay, good, some. Most UCs, not Berkeley. I think there's one other, maybe Merced, I'm not sure. But other UCs usually do the quarter system. Oh, that means it's over 10 weeks instead of over an entire semester. And you have less classes. So instead of 6, you might have 4 classes, or we start you off with really 3 classes. So you take less classes, but they move at a faster pace. It depends on your learning style, whether that's a good learning style for you or not. I see a lot of benefits to it, but I also could see why you might be nervous about that. But the good thing is you only have less finals at one time. So my selling point is instead of having 6 finals or something like that, you might have 3 or 4 finals, which is nice. But you are learning those classes more quickly, but you go to school approximately about the same number of hours per week. So it's not really harder in the sense that you have way more hours per week. It's that you go over the summer. So you start in June, or we start first. So we start in June. And our first quarter is from June to end of August, beginning of September. So by the time everybody else is coming to start their first year, you've done a quarter already and you have that under your belt. You also go the next summer. And so between those 2 summers and doing the quarter system, we are able to fit it in. So it's not really you're working so much more per week, it's that you're going year round. So you have to be ready and wanting to go year round, but there's some great benefits if you do. So we'll talk about those. But if you look at this, it's the same time of quarter. You can, I can get this to you. I don't think this exact thing is on our website right now, but we'll be happy to talk to you about this and show if you want to take a screenshot of this or something. This is obviously tentative plan. Things can change at any moment, but this is what we're thinking of for the next 2 years of what it would look like if you're curious as to what classes you take first, second, third, fourth, etc. And you'll see in quarter 8 that 5-unit externship, that's where you're working 8 to 5, 8 to 6 every day, Monday through Friday at an office. So you finish out law school by actually working at a placement. Okay. So my 2 favorite things of SCALE and why I think you should heavily consider the SCALE program. First is the community. So it's a community within a community. Dean Garacanian has already talked about the fact that Southwestern is a community, the online is a community. That's why I have stayed here for so long. I've been here 18 years. It is, and I taught at 2 other law schools beforehand. It is not like any other law school. It is unique. It is different. You will feel like you belong and you're part of something. You won't just feel like a number that is passing through. That is true of Southwestern. I taught in the 3-year program for years and years and years and felt the same. What I especially love about Scale is it gets to be its own community within that larger community. So we have somewhere between 50 to 60 students typically. You go to class with all the same 50 or 60 students, and you get to know them very, very well. Let me just tell you, really well, and they become family. So I call it my Scale family. You will become my Scale children, and I will be your second mother. And for those parents out there, yes, I will take care of your child while you are away, and I will watch over them. And that is very much my relationship with my students is I like to provide a lot of support, a lot of mentorship, and you will support each other. And it's very important if you want to be a part of Scale that that's important to you. So the one thing that is different about Scale is you have to have an interview in order to be accepted into the Scale program. Me personally, I'm not looking for higher LSATs or higher GPA. If you are a strong enough student to be part of Southwestern, you are a strong enough student to be part of Scale. It is not about LSAT and GPA. It's about, are you one who likes to have community and work with others and be collaborative, because that's the kind of culture that I am trying to create, is one that's very supportive, where you really work together towards goals and not against each other. It's really important in a small, tight community that it is like that. So I do my best to build that. And I think we have it going right now. And hopefully you'll get to meet some Scale students and have the chance to talk to them about what that community feels like. And then the other part that I love about Scale that is so unique, I don't know any other program in the country that does it, but I don't know every program, but I think we're gonna take questions just 1 second. This is my last slide, and then I think we're gonna open it up to questions, is all the experiential learning that you do. So Southwestern is known for practice-based learning. You are gonna get it whether you're in the online program, whether you're in the traditional program, or whether you're in the Scale program, you're gonna get experience actually practicing law. But in Scale, you get to do it right away, like right out the gate, your first year. You don't just sit in the classroom and learn that way. Part of our doctrinal classes, evidence, civil procedure, you actually have a part where you go and practice the skills that you're learning. So I'll give you my favorite example is evidence. Maybe 2 days a week, you're going and listening to evidence lecture with Professor Gunning. And then on Friday, you have to go into court. And you have to get dressed up in your suit and you have to put on your case using the evidence rules that you just learned. They're called evidence labs, and attorneys from the practicing from LA area come in. Professors are the judges. I play a judge, and you have to convince us. Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Why is it hearsay? And so you are cross-examining witnesses, doing directs on witnesses, and having to object as you go, practicing the rules that you just learned in evidence. It is incredible. It is such an awesome opportunity. And what I have found from it is when the students go out to their very first summer, they are so well prepared, so much more prepared than law students who are first years from other school. And they have everybody coming to them saying, how do you know this? How do you know how to do this? Oh, well, I did it every Friday. For 2 quarters long, I was in court every Friday. So you learn not just evidence, you don't realize it. You learn, where do you sit in court? How do you approach the judge? How do you talk to a judge? You know, all these little things that you're not really thinking about, that you just learn by doing. So it's one of my very, very parts of Scale. So I'll leave it at that. I highly encourage you to seriously consider Scale, not for the 2 years. My thing is, it's awesome that it's 2 years, but that's not why you should do Scale. You should do Scale because of our family and because of the experiential learning that you're going to get from Scale.
Hi. Okay, there we go. Hi, good morning, everyone. So good to see you. My name is Nydia Johnson, and I am the Associate Dean for Academic Success and Bar Preparation here at Southwestern. I'm also an Associate Professor of Law. I teach remedies, foundations of law and practice for first-year students. And I previously taught the Youth Offender Parole Clinic here at Southwestern, and I'm a proud alum of Southwestern Law School. So I really love this law school. And I am joined by one of our fabulous alumni, Donald Bullock. Donald recently graduated and was a full-time student in the in-residence traditional program. And we worked very closely this year on the bar exam. So Donald is joining us. And we also have Hannah, who is one of our Scale students. She is a Scale 2 student, which, as you all heard from Dean Knowlton, is our 2-year accelerated program. So she is in her final year of the Scale program. And we are also joined Maria is one of our online JD students, and she is in her second year of the program. And Maria is also one of my Dean's Fellows for the online JD program. Dean's Fellows are upper division students who work with our first year students on things like academic skills, just acclimating to law school and those kinds of things. So we have a great panel, and the theme of our panel today is going to be just giving you all some insight into the law school experience. And our hope is that you'll get to hear from our panelists what were some of the decision-making points that they made when selecting a law school. And also, hopefully you will be able to gain some insight into what is the life of a law student and what can you expect? What kind of adjustments do you need to make to show up and be your best for this experience, which I'm sure you'll hear from our panelists is very busy and full and goes by a lot faster than you think. So first question I'm going to pass over to the group is, in selecting a law school, what were the criteria that you considered, whether it was personal, professional, academic? What were the important factors that you considered?
I can go first. Good morning, everyone. So some of the things I looked for in law school, like the top thing was community. I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was a place that I could feel like I could fully be myself and grow, and that I didn't feel like I'm sure you guys have all heard how law school feels like it's a competition with other people. And so that was something I was really trying to look for, is a school that I didn't really feel like I was at competition with other people, but I was working with other people instead. So that was one of the first things that I was looking for. I also wanted to look at a school that had a really good support system as well, too, in terms of like resources I could get from the school, such as like how we have here at Southwestern, Dean's Fellows, academic help and support, along with helping me find a job ultimately as well, too. So those are the two most important things I was looking for in coming to law school, was community and how the school could ultimately support me in my journey, which I'm back here now after graduating. So I think you guys see that it did support me, and I found a community here at Southwestern.
I can go next. Something that I really wanted to find in a law school was experiential learning. I do well in the classroom, but I feel like the best way I learn is being able to have those hands-on experiences. And so looking at clinics, a lot of the time in scale classes, there's experiential learning where they bring in TAs or alumni or current judges to watch us either in an evidence lab practice our objections, or in civil litigation arguing our different sides of emotion. And so those things were really important to me because I am a first-gen student. I'm from out of state. So moving to another state by myself, I knew that I wanted to know how to do the job. And so it's something that was really important to me, that Southwestern has done a really good job in providing those opportunities.
How about for you, Maria?
For me, it's similar to Hannah. You know, I wanted to go to a school that had the curriculum that I needed, and I knew kind of what field I wanted to be in. And Southwestern has a really great public interest program that attracted me. And I know Donald, I think you participated in it as well. And that was really my primary focus, but also I needed something that was flexible, which is, you know, I work full time and I have a family. So I needed something that would let me do classes when I could, which is usually not traditional hours. And that's why the online program was really, great for me.
Thank you. And Hannah touched upon this a little bit, sharing her experience as a first-gen student. But we do offer a lot of support in that area. About half of our student body are first-gen students. We have a first-gen mentorship program, a first-gen student organization. Both Hannah and Maria work with our first-gen students. Maria is one of our first-gen mentors. And Hannah works with our students as well. So there's a lot of support in that area for students that are thinking like, well, I have a community that I can talk to about as I try to acclimate to law school and navigate things that will be new. So in selecting ultimately Southwestern, which you picked, was there anything that surprised you once you arrived at the law school? So anything that you were unaware that you might have needed, or pleasantly surprised that was offered that you might have needed? How was that experience for you?
I'll go first. I think as I kind of touched on first, I think how tight-knit a lot of me and my classmates became, also how wonderful all the professors were. I had a feel from it from coming to some of these events before, kind of the community that Southwestern had. But when I got to like my first day of my 1L year and we were like sitting in class and I was like, wow, all the professors are actually so nice and they're so helpful. I think that was one of the things that really kind of like shocked me because I didn't really know what fully to expect going in. And so, because I know you like see movies and TV shows where it's like law school classes are so hardcore and you're getting cold called and like you're fearful. But I thought the biggest thing that really surprised me is how supportive the professors were and how they really were on your side trying to help you ultimately understand the law and become the best lawyer you possibly can be.
I think similar to Donald, like I didn't know anything about law school before coming to law school. So I was expecting like it to be really cutthroat, people to be really mean, and to honestly live my next 2 years like alone in my apartment. That is not the case. I made a lot of friends, but there was just so much support in the classroom with my cohort, with students in other programs. Joining boards and getting to know people who are getting ready to graduate, or being assigned a mentor who, you know, continually checked in on me. And then like every attorney that I've met who is an alum from Southwestern is just, I think, the nicest person that I've ever met in my life. Like they're just like, here's my email me if you have any questions, or if you want to come shadow me, or if there's anything that I can do to give you like tips on a professor. Like everyone is just so kind and supportive that it's just such a unique culture that I had never experienced in a school before.
Thank you. Maria, anything to add on that?
Well, I'm just going to say the same thing. The support that I received here has been so surprising. And even as an online student, I did not expect to build, genuine relationships with my classmates and also my professors. And the faculty really, truly cares about, each student's success. And that's been a level of support that I've received that I didn't expect, but it's been really nice to experience here. And you don't realize how much you need it as a law student, until you get into the depths of learning law, and then you realize that you really do need support, and you get that at Southwestern, which has been so great.
Thank you. And one of the panelists also mentioned meeting alumni, meeting folks that will share their contact information. As you all are on this journey, visiting law schools, trying to make a decision, and you come across folks who share, if you have questions, reach out to me. Take those people up on that offer, right? So when you see panelists and professors and they're attending these events on Saturdays, they really care and they're really invested in the profession and helping other folks join the profession. So take them up on those offers to learn more about what they do or what their experience was like. I want to now ask for you all to kind of share a little bit about what is a typical week look like for you, or looked like for you, Donald, while you were a law student. What was your schedule like? How did it kind of look balancing your classes and studying, and also, trying to manage a personal life?
Yeah, as Dean Johnson knows, because you were to me for bar prep, I'm very type A. So I was very having to schedule everything out. So how I settled my day was I probably start around like 7:30 in the morning. I'd have breakfast, like make sure you eat 3 meals a day. That's the biggest thing for law school. Take care of yourself. And so would eat breakfast, and then I probably would have class probably around 9 o'clock sometimes, or 10:45, depending on like what day it was. And so if I had a 10:45 class, I would do a little bit of work in the morning, go to class, make sure I have lunch, kind of reset, go to my next either 1 or 2 classes in the afternoon. I would always go to the gym after, and then would get back to go like eat, and then do a little bit more homework, studying, outlining, try to fit in office hours. And then at the end of the day, one of the things I like to do is I like to watch a lot of sports. So no matter what was happening, if it was like if I had a midterm the next day, I'm going to make sure that I have the Warriors game on in the background while I have my outline there while I'm still going through this stuff. So I think you try to have to find rhythms of balance of making sure you schedule the time to do what you need to do, but also take care of yourself, because law school can be exhausting if you don't take care of yourself in the long run. And so you have to find ways, and even if it's small pockets, if it's 30 minutes a day, trying to find little pockets to take care of yourself, schedule those things in, because that's what ultimately matters as well too, is that like you want to perform well in law school, but your mental health also really matters too. So cut the time out, even if it's 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours a day, just do something that you enjoy. Don't lose your hobbies for law school. Focus on your school, take it seriously, but also maintain your life outside of law school as well too.
And Donald is really not exaggerating. We met the same day and time every week for 10 weeks. I miss you, Donald. I haven't, it's been some time. Hannah, how about for you? What does a typical week look like?
Yeah, so within the skill program, typically our classes start between 9 and 10:30. Usually 10, I feel like, is the sweet spot for most of the classes. So I would wake up, the gym here on campus opens at 6:30. So I would be here when the doors opened. I would get a good workout in, go home, get ready, finish any reading that I didn't finish the night before. I'd go to class. Usually during the lunch period, a lot of the student organizations or professors or TAs will hold something. So either a TA session, there will be a panel, there will be a networking event, something happens at lunch that I would go to because, you know, it's important to also work on your networking in addition to working on your studying. And then at night, I would have a comfort zone in the library. I'm like a basement rat. So there's like one study room downstairs that I'm like, this is the best room. So I would camp out there until about 7 or 8 at night, go home, eat, and then make sure that I get 8 hours of sleep because your brain doesn't work if it's tired.
Hannah's right. The basement is the best place to study.
For me, it's a little bit different because I do work full time. I am only able to study very, very early. So I usually get up about 4 or 4:30 in the morning. I study for about 3-4 hours, and then I will get my kids ready and go to school and work all day. I do leave my evenings open. I try not to study because I do have kids and I like to spend time with them. But usually my weekends are all day studying. So Saturday, Sunday. But I'm home with my kids. I don't, separate myself. So we have many, many interruptions, and it is a full day thing. So trying to get studying in and kids in between. So most of it's done on the weekends for sure.
Thank you. And Hannah mentioned a lot of the lunchtime programming. We also offer those programs on Zoom remotely as well, so that our online students can attend. And faculty, we're always telling our students, you have to eat, you have to take a break. So it's nice to listen in on something, kind of expand your mind in terms of the possibilities of practice areas you might be interested in. We often bring really excellent speakers, even sometimes things on topics like wellness, different, kind of areas that aren't always just related to the law. So it's really nice that we have that robust programming. So you heard from Maria and what she's kind of juggling in terms of home life and the online program, but you'll be surprised to hear how much she still does in terms of activities and different kind of mentoring. So I'm going to start with Maria and then kind of have Hannah and then Donald share what level of involvement they've had while in law school and what that involvement looked like and how they balanced it with everything else.
Yeah, so I am a student member of various student associations. I serve on the board of the Parents Attending Law School Committee. And many of the organizations, even though I'm an online student, they do just like this, they'll stream their in-person meetings. So you can attend whether you're on campus or not. I'm also a Dean's Fellow. I'm a first-gen mentor, and those are all for me virtually as well. So it's very easy to do those. I'm also a teaching assistant for contract law, and I was a research assistant for Professor Hart this past summer. And again, all of those were very flexible and virtual, and I could do them at my own pace on my own time. And I do live close enough to campus that I can actually attend many of the events on campus. So that's also like the haunted homecoming they just talked about. My kids really love that. And we've been to that 2 years in a row and they look forward to it. And I also volunteer at a legal clinic here in LA, which I found through the public interest group through Southwestern as well.
Maria is so impressive. I don't know if you like just listening to her, and then the fact that she has a family and school on top of everything that she's interested in. Like, you're incredible.
Thank you.
So with Scale, it is a shorter program. So at the end of last year, I was like, I need something. So sorry, it's me. It doesn't want me to talk. I kind of threw my name into a lot of rings and was like, I'll just get what I get. And I ended up getting a lot on accident. But it's been a wonderful opportunity. Like, you can't really complain that you have an opportunity to be involved in a lot of things. So I am a Dean's Fellow and I'm a peer mentor for Scale. I also am a TA for legal writing, constitutional criminal procedure, and criminal law. I'm a research assistant. I'm on 2 boards. So I'm on the Public Interest Law Committee and the Women's Law Association. And then there's like everything that falls in between. But balancing that is, it's fun because it's all things that I'm interested in. Like, I didn't apply to do something that I would be grumpy while I was doing. Like, I wanted it to be a positive experience. So balancing, like, I have a very beautiful color-coded calendar in Outlook of when I can do things. And then this has actually let me grow a lot because I have learned how to say no, which incredible. I don't love saying no, but being able to now say, like, I don't have time to go to this fundraising event because I have a TA session that I have to go to, but have fun. I can't wait to hear everything about it. And I mean, because the community is so great, everyone is involved. I was like, no, I totally get it. We're going to miss you, but we're going to send you pictures of everything that's going on. So it's been a really great experience because I think the students that I work with and the professors that I work with are just so understanding about what's important to me.
So while I was in law school, I first externed basically my entire time I was in law school. So after my 1L year, starting the summer of my going into my 2L year, throughout the rest of law school, I externed at the public defender's office where I now currently work. So that was the first thing I did. I was a Dean's Fellow, I was on the Peer Mentor Advisory Board, I was the Vice President of our Black Law Students Association, our Mass Incarceration Awareness Law Society. I was a TA for con law, I was a TA for criminal law and criminal procedure. God, I feel like there's something else I did, but I'm forgetting what it was. That's all that I remember right now that I did, but I'm sure there's more. And how you balance all of it is honestly staying organized. I think that's one of the biggest keys to law school is to stay organized. Because if you're not organized, things kind of feel like they're spiraling out of control. And so being able to do all that with staying organized, but also learning how to take breaks and lots of coffee as well too.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And what a great tip that Donald just shared. So if you're thinking about law school and organization, scheduling is not your favorite thing to do, lean into improving in that area before you start. It's going to make your life so much easier. I'm always telling my students, know thyself. Like, that is like my common thing I'm always saying is you have to know your areas where you need to put a little bit more structure so that the challenges of law school will be easier to get through because you're much more organized. And recognizing, right, it feels like a long time, but 2 or 3 or even 4 years when you're very busy goes by extremely fast. So I want to make sure we keep time for some questions, but I have one last question that I want to leave the group with, which is, what is one thing you wish you had known before starting law school? And so if you were, giving advice to yourself as a prospective law student, what is one thing that you wish you would have known?
I'll start. I was telling Dean Gear earlier today, I was like, it's crazy. It's been 4 years since I was applying to law school. And the one thing that I will say is to breathe. Like everything will work. As funny as it sounds, everything will work itself out. Like applying to law school is stressful. Taking the LSAT is stressful. Trying to come together with your personal statement, trying to get letters of recommendation, all those things are inherently stressful because you care. But all your goal is to get a seat at one school, right? And hopefully it's Southwestern. But ultimately, your goal is to get into the door at one school, and everything will work itself out. Ultimately, just breathe and trust the process and know that inherently taking the LSAT is hard. So you're doing something that's already challenging. So you should be very proud of yourself. So just breathe and ultimately trust the process that everything will work itself out.
I think for me, something that I wish that I would have known is I can be brave, coming in, not knowing anything about law school, being in a new state. I am not one, even now, that my professors don't see my hand very often. If I'm called on, I have an answer. I did the reading. I am paying attention in class, but it's not something that I usually volunteer. And some of the programs that I'm in have allowed me to really practice that, like being in the immigration clinic and turning in work and having it returned back to me covered in red for things that I need to fix. Or in the negotiation honors program, I had to do a monologue last week by myself in front of the class, and I was very brave that I did that. So it's just a lot of growing, and I wish that I had started out my first couple weeks of law school, really trying to emphasize that I can raise my hand and that the things that I have to say have value. And so that's something that I've grown into, but I wish that I would have started with.
I would say I would recommend people, build and prepare your support network now rather than later on. You're going to need it, and you want to know going into this who you can lean on whenever you're struggling through midterms or exams, and get your group ready and let them know, what to expect as much as you can possibly prepare them. And also take advantage of all the programs that Southwestern offers, because they do offer, like they said earlier, they have Dean's Fellows and peer mentors and first gen mentors and vice and cares. And there's so many ways that you can take advantage of that from the get-go. And if you do, it's going to help the transition into law school make it more easy, than if you didn't. So I would definitely take advantage of that.
Wow, what wonderful advice. So breathe, be brave, but being brave doesn't mean you have to do it alone. So find your support network, lean into that, whatever law school you choose. I'm sure there is a lot of support. And I know as an alum of Southwestern and a faculty member here, we really are a tight-knit community. So.
Hi, everybody. Is the mic good? Is the mic good? Hi, everybody on Zoom. Am I on? Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Hi, everybody on Zoom. All right, so let's have a little bit of fun. Is everybody ready? You get to have some opinions today. Is that good? So let's think about the world lawfully. You guys are all going to be lawyers, right? You all graduated college. You have lots of big ideas. So everybody get the idea of what lawfully means in your head, okay? So here's the rule that you probably know. To be lawfully on someone's real property, so not trespassing, you must have an invitation. Does everybody have something in mind about, if you were judge of your own land, what that looks like? All right, so here's a hypothetical. Joe, your next door neighbor, visits you often. And one day you're unpacking groceries and she walks onto your property to say hello. You nod but say nothing. Your dog bites her. Oops. Okay, so here's the thing. Was Joe lawfully on the property when bitten? Anybody have an answer for me? Yeah.
The nod is an implied invitation.
Oh, the nod is an implied invitation. Why? Okay, acknowledging her presence. Anybody want to take the other side? Yeah. Okay, so not invited. I saw a hand in the back. What did you think? Okay, she wasn't explicitly told she could stay. All right, interestingly. So here's the thing. You thought you understood trespass? In 1 minute, I've confused you. Welcome to law school. You're ready. You're ready for your first year. So here's the idea. Everything that you're going to do in your first year of law school, it's this experience. It's thinking about a hypothetical, finding that word that you sort of think you know what it means, like your layperson self, your common sense knows what it means, and then you're going to begin to read cases that are going to expand those terms or contract those terms, and it's going to affect how we act together as a society. Sound exciting? All right, so let's start breaking that down a little bit, okay? So all law is applying a rule to facts. That's really the heart of legal reasoning. And so the idea is when I asked you to explain why, right, you were basically, even with no training at all, basically doing a very mild, very simple rule application, which is a term you're going to hear from your legal writing instructors until you die. Okay, so specifically, what you need to do in applying a rule to facts is you need to understand the facts. Now, in a one-sentence hypothetical, that gets really easy. I'll even say by your second month of law school, reading a case and understanding the facts might be really easy. But by your second year, when you're in a clinic and you have a client come in and you're the person with only 1 year of law school underneath your belt, you are the person listening to that story to figure out if there's a legal claim or there isn't. You need to understand the facts and ask follow-up questions to make sure you have all those pertinent facts. Does everybody see? Like, that's what makes law school so special, that even after 1 year, you're going to have an impact on clients. All right, so let's look at this situation. This is basic again. A driver is approaching an intersection in her car. The traffic signal facing the driver is red. The driver proceeds to the intersection. You know, running a red. I mean, I wrote it in really fancy language, but basically ran a red light. So did the driver violate the California Vehicle Code? Yes. Okay. So, but here's the thing. We know here's the rule. Here's the rule application. Here's the thing that makes law complicated. Because legal writing, which means communicating, right, your analysis to a professor, to a supervisor, to a court, you have to make your thinking transparent. And one of the biggest struggles in law school is taking the obvious and making it transparent. So in essence, you can just say, yes, she ran a red, but here, do you notice the rule application is just a little bit more than a conclusion? Does everybody see that? They were actually saying here the traffic signal facing the driver was red at the time, and therefore apply the rule, we have the answer. So a lot of law school is also slowing your fast brain from jumping to conclusions. All right. But just like we saw in the lawful example that I started this with, the law is open to interpretation. So it gets complicated. And that's where precedent cases come in. Does anybody here, like, I'm assuming, how many people here are poli-sci majors? Got a few in the class? All right, of course we do. All right, so how many people here took some sort of pre-law class? How many people here working in law offices? All right, so when I say, hey, give me your best definition of stare decisis, anybody have an idea what that is? Anybody want to try? Yeah. Yeah, like I want everybody to be able to see me. But really what it is we care about what happened in the past. Does that make sense? So we care about case precedent in the past. Why? Because in order to have a stable society, right, we need to understand the rules. I mean, everybody understands all this is fake, right? That we made all this up and it's just been many, many years of all fake things we made up. Okay, so I want you to remember, like with that idea, right, is that we can't just then make up something wholly new, because how do you know then when walking down the street what's wrong, what's not wrong, right? So we need a stable society in order to have a good social fabric. Does everybody understand that? So with the concept of stare decisis, a court is going to go this far. So you get a new hypothetical and they're going to say, we're only going to go this far. You're going to struggle in class. It's like, but sometimes you read cases that go this far and you're going to say, well, that's unfair. And then you're going to start talking about activist courts. Or you're going to say, oh, the court only went this far. They could have gone much further. They had a narrow holding. And you'll start to think about why that's true. So the past is important when considering the law. So we're going to be the court for this. Here's the key facts. I'm trying to read from a screen here. After buying groceries, victim walks to her car, opens the driver's side door, throws her purse into the passenger seat, and sits down in the driver's seat. Everybody capture the facts? All right, defendant approaches the driver's seat of the car, pushes victim back in her seat, and grabs her purse. Does everybody understand? Now, I bet in criminal law, what happens a lot is we all now have a moral idea of right or wrong. Does that make sense? But here, I'm going to give you one rule, not every rule, not everything that this defendant might have done, just one particular rule. Did the defendant take victim's purse from the person for the purposes of grand theft? Okay, does everybody have the question? All right, I want you to go back to the hypothetical because we're dealing with slides here instead of handouts. Does everybody have the hypothetical in their mind? All right, so we're going to keep going. Here's the rule. I'll read it out loud. The crime of theft from the person contemplates that the property shall at the time be in some way actually upon or attached to the person, or carried or held in actual physical possession, or held or carried in the hands, long sentence, or by other means upon the person. The crime was not intended to include property removed from the person and laid aside. However, immediately, it may be retained in the presence of or constructive control or the possession of the owner while so laid away from his person and out of his hands. Okay, welcome to the law. That was a really long sentence, and all your legal writing professors are going to tell you don't write like that. But you're going to read a lot like that in law school. Now, thinking about the trespass lawfully example that I gave right at the beginning, we thought everybody understood what lawfully meant, but very quickly we had two different interpretations. So even just looking at this rule, using your critical eye from what you've learned in your first half hour of law school, what are terms here that we would call gray or fudge words, or I would say a curse word, but I promised Lisa I was going to be good today. So what are words here that you think the courts are precedent, right, are probably going to have dealt with? Yeah, in the back. Possession. Okay, absolutely. What else? Yeah. Contemplate. Yes. But think about the elements in that rule. Yeah.
From online, we have attached to the person.
Attached to the person, right, because how attached is it going to be? Anybody else? Yeah. Constructive control. What the hell does that? You just can hear why lawyers are creating jobs for themselves. Does everybody understand? Absolutely what that means. Anything else? Yeah, in the back. By other means, absolutely. That's going to have been litigated. You could find precedent on all these terms, right? And that's what your research professor is going to be teaching you, is how to find the best cases that explain those terms, when something is within control and when something is without control. And that's going to teach you the doctrine of the law. All right, so here's another handy thing. Every time you get a rule, you should diagram it. Does that sound a lot like the LSAT? Oh yeah, it completely does. Sorry for the, I love the LSAT. You guys don't like it? No? Oh my God, I used to teach the LSAT years ago because it paid better than being a criminal defense attorney. And it really did. It paid us significantly much more than being a criminal defense attorney. And I would get the big book of LSATs to practice for teaching, and I would sit in bed all night long. Christina, I'm totally serious, and just do the entire test over and over again for fun, which makes you all feel bad for me because I have clearly no life. But the idea is diagramming is key in law school. So very quickly, right, I diagrammed out the rule that was a really long, complicated sentence. And here we have, the property must be in some way actually upon the person or attached to the person, held or carried in actual physical possession, held or carried in the hands, held or carried by other means upon the person. It cannot have been removed from the person and laid aside, right? And so that's the other thing for me. I would want to know, another thing I'd want to research is what laid aside means, because that really feels vague too. Even if it is immediately retained in the presence or constructive control or possession of the person. So now we have a past case, that stare decisis, right? That's controlling how far we can go, right, in this analysis. So look at the facts here. Victim removed pants and used them as a pillow. Defendant then took money from the pants while the victim slept. Some strange facts. I kind of want to know more context, but here we go. But those are the pertinent facts. Holding, the property not taken from the person. So again, for those of you who shouted out terms, do you see how this is limiting what you may have thought constructive control was? Because this is basically saying, this isn't constructive control. Here's an example of that term in action. All right, here's another case in Re George B. Grocery bag resting in a shopping cart while victim is pushing cart. Defendant took bag from the shopping cart. All right, if I just gave you this facts without the holding, you guys might all say, hey man, that's laid aside. But look at what the court held. The court said here that it was within the constructive control. Do you see how lawyers just make themselves jobs? Like the two cases here, they seem like they should have the same result, and yet here they split the hair. Do you see how they split the hair? And your job is to figure out why that works. And so look at the reasoning here that the property was attached to the person through the medium of the shopping cart. Now, a lot of your professors in your doctrinal classes will say your opinion doesn't matter, but then every once in a while, they're going to break that rule, right? And say, okay, I want to hear your opinion. Is anyone aggravated by this? Because using the rule from George, can anybody say that the McElroy facts could work the same way? Yeah, why? Whoever said yeah with energy, yeah.
Was the previous case taken at a different, was it previously before George B?
Yeah, I think it's before, but that doesn't matter, right? You know what I mean? But just looking at the facts, using your rule from George B, why does now McElroy, if that's the name of the case, why does that feel wrong to you now?
I know you just said it isn't that, but.
Well, because I want you to play with your, like, I want you to play with the confusion this court's created. Yeah, they can. Well, but your job is to make sure they don't conflict with each other. But I want you to feel the pain that it kind of conflicts with one another. Yes.
Shopping, holding on to the shopping cart, what's the difference when I'm sitting in my car?
Well, I'm not even getting to the car yet. Now I'm just talking about the guy sleeping on his pants. Okay, like I'm just talking about the dude sleeping on his pants because does everybody understand what the court is saying in George, right, is basically that, you know, it's like the shopping cart was a conduit. Does that make sense? The purse was in the shopping cart and I was holding the shopping cart, so therefore it wasn't laid aside and was in that constructive control. Does everybody understand that's what the court said? So it's upon the person. But okay, that first case I showed you, the guy's sleeping on his pants. Yeah.
I think the discrepancy is that the property being attached to the person could apply to the man sleeping on his pants if the pants was immediately property.
Absolutely. Does everybody understand that that could completely have been like the through line of logic, right? Is that, okay, that's true. But the court didn't find that. So your job now, even though that logic makes sense to me, and you should all be feeling that. Like, one of the things about law school that makes law school so exciting is that you have to keep your self-esteem at the table. Like, imposter syndrome is going to be kicking in, but you're here, you're in law school for a reason. And so the idea is, this is uncomfortable. It doesn't make sense. And yet your job, and it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to Dean Knowlton. But your job as a lawyer, so don't lose confidence in this moment. It makes sense to nobody. Now what you need to do is figure out how it made sense to the court, because it's not the rule of Alexandra, right? It is the rule of California. Yeah. Yes.
It's fully in control of the shopping cart.
Yeah.
Is he willing?
It could be. Yeah. All right. I'll take one more. Yeah. Okay. So, so here's like the real process is with these two cases alone, I don't know. No, and here's the thing that's really important, right, about the law is that a lot of the answers that you're going to get in law school is it depends or maybe. Because what you would do now as the law clerk is I would say, okay, go research that. You know what I mean? Is the difference between these two cases the intent to rest? You know, the idea is that you abandoned your pants in a way, even though you were sleeping on it? Or was it the idea is that because there was a sleep, that there needed to be some awareness component? Does everybody understand? But it's going to probably be one of those answers that is played out in future cases, which means, does everybody sort of understand where we are? So now we're going to get back to the car, the woman in the car. So here's a chart. And so here you'll see the facts from our case versus the fact from the precedent cases. And what you want to do is sort of think through now both sides. Because part of your job, remember, as a first-year law student, is to become a master of analysis, not a master arguer. Can everybody I need everybody to hear me, because you come to law school, for many of you, you're going to come to law school because somebody told you were really good at arguing, and a parent said, oh my God, just go to law school. Like, stop arguing with me. So the idea is you're coming, or you have your why is that you want to be an advocate for children, for parents, for our Constitution. Whatever your why is, you're coming here to argue or advocate for something. But your job as a law student, first and foremost, is to analyze, which means that you have to understand both sides all the time. You do not have a horse in the race in your first year in law school. And the sooner you can sort of think through that, the more fun doctrinal classes are when I say, okay, you argue one side, you argue the other side, and you might say, but I want to argue the other side, and it's just not going to matter. So, thinking about this, let's think about the rule. So let's go back to that hypothetical, right? She threw her purse on the passenger seat. She sat in. The guy, leaned over, took the purse. Was the purse on her or not? Anybody want to give a try of reasoning it out? Yeah. So you're saying it's not that the car is different than the shopping cart. Okay. All right, so does everybody see? Oh, but look, there are a lot of people disagree. I'm assuming a lot of people are disagreeing, but we need both sides. Okay, so yes. Okay, so this is a great, thank you for this, because this gives that first example of one of the most frustrating things about law is that, ooh, I was not supposed to go past the column. I have limits, I have a cage. But that's really great, because the thing is, you can only answer a hypothetical based on the case law you have in front of you. Did the rule mention that at all, ownership? No. And then thinking even further, right, did the woman own the shopping cart? No. So, right, so take ownership out of it. I mean, here what we have, you know, is the argument that since the car wasn't in use, I guess, first the shopping cart was in use, right, is that the car itself cannot be a conduit, so it's more like the laid aside pants than the, is that what I'm getting? More like the laid aside pants than the shopping cart. Okay, so do you want to take a stab at the other side? Because, man, there are people chomping at the bit to give the other side. All right, she's a lifeline, yeah. Owning the car does not matter. But remember, this is just about was it on the person or not. So we're not talking about all the different crimes the defendant can go down for. So it's only about the question, was it upon the person for the purposes of grand theft? Right? And that's the thing where you have to keep your moral, remember, it's probably going down for assault if that makes everybody feel better. Do you know what I mean? Like, so he's not walking away. I was a criminal defense attorney for years, and everybody would always say to me, oh, and you know, oh, it must feel so bad, like doing all this. I was like, yes, he's doing 20 years instead of 30 years. Like, it's not a question of whether he gets off on a technicality. Y'all watch too much Law and Order. Yeah.
Can it be applied that just like in George, where the cart was a form of medium, the car, regardless of ownership, that's also a form of medium. The woman stepped away from the cart that she was, and it was stolen. The woman put the purse in the passenger seat, the form of medium, but she's also using it the moment.
Right, like so you're saying she sat in the car is attached to the purse. Does that make sense? Like, it is still in the purse. So in sense, she's using the car, she's sitting in it, ostensibly going to leave or going to park, right? But she's doing something. And the idea is that, and then it's attached to the purse. So it's more like George, the shopping cart case, than the laid aside pants. Oh, wait, I have an online question.
I have Jacob from online who raised his hand. Go ahead, Jacob.
Was going to say that the reason, like the through line between the three cases, was that the purse was not, I think the purse should be considered laid aside because it had no further intended use. The pants were being used to sleep on, and the shopping cart was being used to carry items throughout the grocery store. So I was leaning on that side of the argument because the purse was put aside, but the victim had no further use of the purse other than bringing it back to their home or wherever their destination was. But in the latter two cases, the shopping cart and the pants, those mediums were being used by the victim.
Well, but remember that in the pants scenario, the court found there was no grand theft. So you have to treat them differently, not the same.
Okay.
But I followed your reasoning up until that point, and it works. But you had a comment too.
Happens to me, the car, more like she didn't get the shopping cart, but it is also portfolio in the back. You know?
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take one more comment and then, yeah.
So like the shopping cart, most people, I'm not sure about everybody, but when you get into your car, no matter whether you toss it or you place it to your side, you're not sitting with your purse in your lap. So with you putting it to the side, that's your intent of having it there secure in your vehicle while you're traveling.
That's true. You would have to be really careful in law in that argument that there aren't 5 people here who drive with their purse on their lap. Do you understand? Like, and that goes back to the LSAT of like, make sure to identify any gap in reasoning. Do you know? Okay, right? Do you see there's like, you're making a hope that the whole population does what you and your 5 friends do. But I think you're right. Okay, all right. I'm going to put a pause on this for just a second because I want to remind everybody, okay, to get an A in law school, you would need all of these answers, not your best answer. Does everybody understand? It's the hardest thing to grasp for first year is you would need to have all the reasoning on one side and all the reasoning on the other side, because in the end, you can't know the conclusion, you're the court. Right? So if you're starting to go down that, how many people here have started going down the road of reading a lot of law resources on how to be a successful law student? Oh, just be honest. Half of you are looking at Above the Law. Half of you have gotten a whole bunch of books on bridging the gap from college to law school, or how to ace law school, or my favorite, if I were to have one, would be Getting to Maybe, because the idea is that most of law school is about maybe, because you can't jump to a conclusion, right? Because all of your reasoning was really good here. The reasoning that was the best here was the reasoning that stayed most attuned to the rule in the 2 cases. So everybody who said, oh, it's more like the shopping cart case because, right? And it's different from the pants case because, or vice versa, right? You're staying close to stare decisis. Does that make sense? And you're doing legal reasoning. When you start bringing in things from outside the 4 corners of those cases, that's not legal analysis, that's playing God. And the idea is like, you can play God after hours. Do you know what I mean? But in class and in law, you're learning how to apply the law, right? And you're learning to do it through reasoning. So we care so much more about the reasoning than your conclusion. And that's a huge difference from college and work, if you're coming from work, where we tend to be results oriented. Does that make sense? So like, I want you to think about all the whys matter, because we're training you to think like a lawyer. Because again, even in your second year, you go do a clinic or you go do an externship, you might be intake hearing a client, and you can't say to a client, oh my God, of course you win. Because you have no idea, you haven't done the research. Even if morally it seems like that person should win, you don't know what the law says. Plus, you probably don't know all the facts. But like, that becomes really important. So this is like the cornerstone of your whole law school education, but very much your first year, which makes teaching in the first year so exciting. So this is what the real court held, by the way, is that it was not Grand Theft Auto. Because what I think was interesting is that they didn't really talk about the car as a conduit in the case. They really focused more on she laid it aside. I think all of you are more brilliant than the court. So, all right. But here's the thing. Legal reasoning continues. There's never end. Lawyers need to keep making money, and new facts keep emerging where we're like, well, actually, we can't say a definite yes or a definite no. It's a maybe, and we need to reason it out to a conclusion. So here's another hypothetical. Bayfield walked to his car in the parking structure at a mall. He opened his car door, sat down, and placed his black leather portfolio on his lap. The portfolio contained his cell phone. He accidentally hit his portfolio as he fastened his seatbelt. The portfolio slid off his lap and ended up partially on his right leg and partially on top of the parking brake. Is it upon the person or not? Anybody want to take a stab? Using all three cases as precedent? Yeah. Okay, so it's specifically attached to him. So it is even stronger than the shopping cart case. It's not laid aside. Anybody have a different? Yeah. Yes, there is definitely another side.
Because there's no one use for it. From what I'm reading, you put this portfolio in Charlie's lot, you split up, split off, there's no one use for it. You know, it's technically 50 on, that means it's until one of this again. And so technically, once the sheriff opened the door and grabbed it, it was a window side.
Okay. Yes, in the back. Well, yeah, he intended to lay it aside, but intent is not in the statute, so we're not talking about intent here. Yeah. And then the woman behind you. Oh, and we're back to loss of constructive control. And what cases that may be like? The pants case. What about the one that we just finished? Yeah, I mean, why like the purse case? I gave you the application of the rule for the purse case. Think through, there's no right answer here, you guys, no right answer, it depends. But like, read the application of this and now give me a because for your statement.
As a vote statement is controlling question person that it hasn't.
Yeah. Okay, but then it. So how is that like? So again, how is that like one? Which case is it most like? So more like, but the shopping cart case, there was control.
And it was on her because she was the reason shop cart, the conduit, she was holding it. But for him, it was on him and out of his control.
Okay.
It would be rather on him.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. So you're agreeing. What's your name? What's your name? Yeah. You're agreeing with Ashley. Okay. Anybody have anything different to add? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Just like with the pants.
Yes.
He fell asleep, he lost control of the pants, so it was no longer being in his control. When he put the briefcase to the side, although he hit it with the seatbelt and it touched him, it's no longer in his control.
Interesting. Okay. I have somebody back there. I see you. Yeah.
More. Double 30,000 to see and then use the car to take his portfolio somewhere.
Okay, so the car, so you're actually making an argument that because he put in his seatbelt, he is more attached to the car. So even though he dropped it and he laid aside, that's not significant. What you're saying is significant, that it's on his body and he was actively using the implement like the shopping cart. That's interesting. That's an interesting interpretation. I'll take that. That's good. All right. Yeah.
Even though that it never left the person. But to me, it seems like the pamphlet or the other one that they will live. Oh no, it's probably not.
Well, the pants were not on him either. They said the pants wasn't on him, even though he was sleeping on the pants, and the defendant took the wallet from the pants while he was sleeping on them. That was ruled as theft.
That's how I feel like I'm trying to there.
Okay, so you're going to say it's more, yeah.
I think it's just interesting to see this case with the purse. She intentionally laid her purse to the side.
Right.
He didn't intentionally, accidentally.
So we take it to the young man in the back who said, how does intent go with it? And the way you're sort of framing it is you're not making intent a requirement, but you're saying if like does laid aside include the intent to lay aside, right? And are we making the distinction there? Yeah.
The fact that it wasn't touching, like it clearly said, like the reading of that testament, it said like, I don't remember what it said, not touching in any way. But then when you look at this one, the fact that like the direct facts say that like it's partially upon its leg, it's not something that was clearly like separated from, I feel like that.
Yeah, so then you could also short circuit this whole conversation and say, you know, even with this above, it seems like this was still touching his person, we're not even talking about constructive control. Do you know what I mean? It was laying on him, and that should be sufficient under grand theft auto. So that's interesting. So here's the thing. There's no right answer to this. This is actually a problem that laws professors have created that they use sometimes in class, and this is the problem. There's no answer to this. You would have to tell your boss, right, if you were talking about what's the likelihood of how we're going to negotiate a settlement, you know, or negotiate a plea bargain, you would need both sides, and they would need all of these arguments, right? And so that's like what law school is. So what we've done today is actually in 40 minutes, you've done a really this is what you do in your whole first year of law school. How fun is that? It's pretty fun. Don't you want to do it? Oh, come on. Isn't this more exciting than if I had gotten up here and said, and then we're going to talk about this, and then we have this, and then you got to do this, and then just memorize some flashcards and vomit up the law and get an A. Like, come on. This is so much more real. So, any questions? Yes.
We have Ben. I'm not sure if there's a question here about the page.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Professor. One thing I noticed is that there was a court of appeals that had first made the application like the rule of law. And the reason it made it to the Supreme Court is more than likely it was so ambiguous that the court had these lower courts making findings that were very much one way or the other, and there was no uniformity. And so this is a way for someone to say, hey, these novel instances are coming about, and there never is a uniform way that all of our courts are actually coming to a reasoned conclusion, and we need to have some uniformity. And so I do see the idea that when there's something laid upon a person that is somehow in their control, but the pants pillow or that the person was using, it appears to me to be not in their control because it's not actually attached, like just a common sense application. If there's a wristwatch I'm wearing and the person has to unlatch it, or if I'm wearing a ring or a necklace or a purse that has some kind of a strap, you have to go about some means to remove that from my person. But if there's something that's just laying about, there's gravity, there's wind, it's not affixed. Like let's say a hat blows off my head, it's not something you've really gone to say, I'm restraining this, like my child of children, they're holding a toy. If another kid rips it out of their hands, then you've really gone through some force to remove it. And that's where I think it arises to the point where it says, you have taken this from the person versus you kind of just grab something that was an opportunity with ease. And so that's probably where the court said, we need to know, was it forceful or was it not? And that's just kind of where I've seen the differences, like parsing out, the different facts. And they're undisputed facts.
I think that's really an interesting take on it. I would be really wary of starting, this is what's hard in law school, of how many steps away did you take, how many if statements did you go away from your analysis? Because even in the end, you started talking about force, and force is not an element in what I gave you. So that's talking about something completely different. So the idea is like that, when you started talking about force, what you were talking about was actually not relevant to whether it was on the person or not. That's probably an element of a different crime that he was probably charged with. But your point about how you'll see lower courts make different decisions and how you'll see that in the end, Congress on purpose, right? There's an argument you can't be over constitutionally broad or vague, but you can completely be a little bit vague constitutionally to give the courts room to maneuver, right? Different fact scenarios. And what you're seeing is absolutely, you're right, seeing the lower courts figure it out. And then the Supreme Court might come in and say, okay, Northern California is really ending up with a very broad version of what's upon a person. And the Southern, like Orange County, is coming up with their holdings, and what they're coming up is very narrow. And that means like the law seems now different depending if you live in San Francisco or if you live in Santa Ana. And California's Supreme Court will come in and smooth that over and say, okay, we've heard enough. We're declaring that laid aside requires intent to lay aside. And if there's intent to lay aside, it would not be upon the person. But we don't have that rule right now. Yeah.
Very decisive that like in the courtroom as like a reason not to agree with something. Like the Delaware case happened, people have been saying like, you know, this is over 120 years old. Clearly changed since then.
Both those things happen all the time. So like in the sense, I'll say my dad is actually a first gen college student and lawyer. He's kind of the American dream. He ended up as a Superior Court judge. And I talk about this because after 9/11, if you remember, law enforcement got very aggro, to put it mildly, and put a lot of people in prison and called them enemy combatants and would not reveal who they were. And my father, and actually you could look this up, he actually used a rule, a law from 1811 saying a jailer must release all the people that are residing in the jail in order to say you need to release the names. So you can indeed use precedent. The other thing that you can do all the time, though, especially with internet changing things all the time, is that you might have a rule like from the 1960s about political speech, a student's political speech on campus, and there are rules about you can have your speech on campus. Students don't leave their First Amendment rights at the schoolhouse gates, but the school can absolutely regulate if there's going to be a substantial disruption. Do you follow? All of that was really copacetic until we got to internet, right? Because now, what if you make a statement from your bedroom geared at students at school and totally the school goes nuts and there's a substantial disruption? Can the school regulate you even though you were in your bedroom? Well, guess what? Just like the young man who just asked that question, courts are all over the place on that question, on how far the school can go to regulate. The United States Supreme Court in 2021 came up with a new case saying that precedent is old, we need a new rule. And that rule is actually really messy. So guess what? Legal reasoning. We're still trying to figure out when a school can regulate off-campus student speech and when it can't. And the law's still really messy right now, so precedent is still evolving. That was a really long answer, but is it good? All right. I'm out of time, but I'll stand over here if you have questions. Thank you.